All right, it's 5:30. We'll go ahead and get started for the work session. We'll move through the agenda and get any changes or questions answered and get ready for our meeting at 6. First item, approval of minutes, January 10th, 2022, 5 p.m. work session, January 18th, 2022, 9:30 a.m. work session, January 18th, 2022, 10 a.m. council meeting, and January 20th, 2022, 2:30 p.m. special called council meeting. Any questions? All right, next, appeals, resolution number 21403, approve Historic Preservation Commission's decision to reject construction of a courtyard at 411 Walnut Street Northeast.
We're prepared. Our Carolina, being moved to Carolina prepared.
Okay. All right, anything, Herman, we need to add to that?
Well, we'll wait and see, but we just need to get clarity as to what he's actually requesting the city council to consider.
Okay.
But he's supposed to be here.
Okay.
Best we can tell. Caroline's had interaction with him today as far as discussion. So.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Next is public hearings, set public hearings. Ordinance number 224491, approve zoning text amendment 24722, Code of Decatur, sections 25143, 25146, and 25147 regarding home occupations. Set public hearing for March 7th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Any questions? Ordinance number 224492, approve zoning text amendment 24822, Code of Decatur, sections 25110, 25112, 25113, and 25114, temporary occupancy business requirements. Set public hearing March 7th, 2022 at 6 p.m. No changes. Any questions? Ordinance number 224493, approve zoning request 138322 for a newly annexed tract of approximately 7.1 acres to B2. General business property is located at 3827 and 3831 Highway 31 South. Set public hearing March 7th, 2022, 6 p.m. No changes. Any questions? All right, next is our weed abatements. David, any changes?
No change.
Okay, any questions? All right, resolution number 22019, sorry, skip that. Resolution number 22021, approve MUB expenditure of $518,876 for purchase of replacement CCTV, electroscan, wastewater inspection truck. No changes. Any questions? Resolution number 22022, approve MUB expenditure of $285,223 for the purchase replacement of sewer line cleaning truck.
No changes.
Okay, any questions? Resolution 22023, approve MUB expenditure of $246,083 for admin building supply fan HVAC modifications. No changes. Any questions? All right, resolution number 22024, approve Rogers Group for the construction of Red Bank Road project and the budget amendment for the project.
No changes.
Okay, any questions? All right, resolution number 22025, approve cost of improvements to the electronic security gate at the environmental services compound. No changes. Any questions? Resolution number 22026, approve surplus of old plotters and approve the purchase of replacement plotter. Any questions? Resolution 22027, authorized recruitment for police chief. Okay, any questions? All right, resolution 22028, approve ALDOT city agreement Renaissance Bank.
There's no changes. That's just basically, we agree to maintain it. There's some sidewalk when Renaissance Bank does their US 31 new bank. It's going to be a modification to the sidewalk, and ALDOT wishes for the city to assure that that'll be correctly maintained.
Okay. Any questions? Resolution 22029, temporary voting center at 6th Street Northwest, Boys and Girls Club of Decatur.
No changes in, we've gotten, or the mayor has gotten permission from the housing authority who own the building to do this, so
Okay.
we're ready for y'all to consider it.
All right, any questions? All right, ordinances first reading, ordinance number 224494, approve annexation 36722, Foxwood subdivision, 20.1 acres located north of Kiowa Trail southeast and west of Ruby Point Drive southeast. Any questions? Ordinance 224495, convey 326 Church Street Northwest to Celebrating Early Old Town with Art.
No changes.
Any questions? All right, boards and committees, appoint Brad Townsend to full member on Board of Zoning Adjustment, term expiring December 31st, 2023.
Is actually already on the board, and Ms. Salcedo did not want reappointment, so he will be filling her position as full member. And then, if appointed, Mr. Ayers will be coming in on a supernumerary.
Okay, any questions on those two? All right, I know, Lee, you had a presentation you wanted to give us.
The last planning commission meeting, we gave our yearly update on the status of One Decatur, and I just wanted to get y'all all a copy.
Thought you were about to read all that.
So this is all of the actions that were taken to continue the One Decatur process. It's an ongoing, we're working on this every day, so this is your copy, just to let you know where we're at and what we've done for the year.
This is the committee there's a committee of citizens that
There's a
meets.
committee, this is the more formal process, so the planning department is required by the One Decatur plan to present at the planning commission meeting, the January or February planning commission meeting, one of the two. We present a formal presentation, this is what we accomplished this year, and we update this document every year as well, just to keep a running tally of what we're doing towards the goals of getting this plan completed.
Okay. All right, any questions for Lee?
Is there a recap sheet or anything, Lee?
There will be a more concise, this is the very detailed, this goes every single item that's in the plan and what was done. There'll be a more concise summary, that'll be a press release, social media release, and you'll see that in a few days.
Look forward to receiving that.
This one's only 80 pages. I think, Emmy, you're on that committee, aren't you? Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, any other questions? All right, thanks, Lee, appreciate it. All right, that's it for the agenda. We'll get started at 6 o'clock. Thanks. Hey.
Yeah, he's here, he's a business educator.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Herman Marks will lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Our Father, we are truly grateful to be here this evening. We thank you for the opportunity to serve. We thank you for those that are willing to serve. We think that's part of our mission in life, is to serve others. We ask now that you be, especially with the council and others that present tonight, that may your guidance lead them. We ask now that you continue to bless us as a city, a nation, and a state. We ask this all in your name. Amen. Oh, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Herman. Roll call. Here. 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 All right, we will get to the agenda in just a minute. We do have public comments. Ms. Everhart signed in. If you come to the podium, and we'll do 3 minutes for that.
My name is Panita Everhart, and I did follow up on, I remember I had problems with my sewer, and every time it rains, and they did come out, they came right out, and they checked the ones that's in the alleyway and in the main street, and of course the main street, it has different avenues that comes to it, so it had more flow, but the one in the alley, it was not flowing at all. And when it rained, it just backs back up into it. And so I was gonna just call them and make a suggestion as far as them coming out instead of waiting for my drain to get clear of water, because they can't put the camera down in there, that they put it through theirs and go down to where it meets where it comes out of my yard, so that we can get to the problem, get to the case, get something done about it, because it keeps on being an issue. So that is one concern. Second concern is the air quality. I have gotten in touch with the company over on Sandlin Road, and I also talked to the people in Montgomery, but I'm not really getting any conclusive. They keep sending me information about Huntsville. Huntsville is 24 miles away from here. All right, I'm talking about a specific area right at the corner of my street where the industrial and where the smell is coming from. I can't enjoy my yard. I can't, when I have company, people are like, what is that smell? You understand what I'm saying? And I'm sure that it is doing something to our health. And I just know that it needs to be brought to the attention. I don't know who to address.
Yeah, so we talked, I think, last week, and I think the next step, this is just my opinion, anybody else can chime in, would be our delegation in Montgomery. They would probably have a better relationship with ADEM, I know them, at least I do, and that would be your House representative and Senate representative in the state, but I can't.
Either or.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm not sure if you would probably have Parker Moore as well.
Parker Moore.
Yeah.
If you'll call, if you're taking notes, 256-341-4501, that'll get you to Susan Hood, who we work in the same office. And Susan can get their information.
Yes, that's your secretary.
Yes, ma'am.
I did talk to her before, so I will call. Thank you so much.
Let me ask you one question.
Sure.
What did Adam actually say to you about that?
Okay, Ada here actually said that he's a geologist, so he studies rocks, and he really does not do the air. He only go and do the tests that they tell him to do because he's here and they're in Montgomery, and sometimes they can't make it down here. So he does the test, but he don't know how to read it. He don't know what's going on because he's a geologist. All right, and so when I did get in touch with someone, they did call me from Montgomery, but they just sent me some information more about Huntsville. And I'm not concerned about Huntsville, even though all air is vascular. You understand? I'm concerned about over here where I live and the air that I'm breathing and the water that I have to take a bath in,
I was, and he actually called me and told me that he had spoken with you. And he did tell me that he was going to speak with someone in Montgomery, but he expected there to be, I guess, more reaction from someone in Montgomery, but apparently we've not gotten it. But okay, I'll try to.
Okay. And the last thing, I know you told me 3 minutes, but just give me a couple
You're
more
good.
seconds. Thank you. Chemtrails. Why do we have these planes flying in our air, leaving chemtrails in the air? Because people, we're actually getting sick from them. Okay, everybody might not know what they are, but I do. You know, and I'm just noticing that we get sick behind it, and I want to know, why would they want to put something in the air to make us sick?
Ms. Everhart, I gave you a wrong number. Will you change that last digit from 1 to 2, please?
Okay.
4502.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody?
I'll simply say that that's under the controls of the FAA. And we
FAA.
have no control or guidance with that, so.
Okay,
that's
I'm
what-
just really, I know that you'll know more, like, you know FAA, I didn't know that, you understand what I'm saying? But I'll get in touch with them, I'll find out who it is that I need to talk to, because I'm very concerned about that. Why would they do something like that, you know, to citizens? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, I think the other items on the public comment were for a specific agenda item, so we'll get to those agenda items. First on the agenda, approval of minutes. Does anybody have any issue with taking these all at once? All right, I'll read them. January 10th, 2022, 5 p.m. work session. January 18th, 2022, 9:30 a.m. work session. January 18th, 2022, 10 a.m. council meeting. And January 20th, 2022, 2:30 p.m. special called council meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Wagner,
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
The minutes are approved 5-0. Next, we have an appeal. Resolution number 21403, approve Historic Preservation Commission's decision to reject construction of a courtyard at 411 Walnut Street Northeast. And I believe, Mr. Kennedy, I think we were going to ask you to just address us first, and then Caroline can as well.
It's made up here that I'd like to pass out. Thank you.
So, okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
I may get it back, but probably not.
Okay. First of all, appreciate the council hearing me, but this resolution approves Historic Preservation Commission's decision to reject a construction of a courtyard. I did not construct a courtyard, nor did I ever intend to construct a courtyard. I don't know, terminology, stuff got misinterpreted or whatever, but it's not a courtyard. If you'll open the presentation on page 1, that's the house we purchased roughly 3 years ago in the month of, it's like May. So, if you notice, there's this huge tree. So if you flip the page to page 2, that's what happened the week of closing. Huge tree fell on the house, clipped the front edge, didn't involve the porch, but it devastated the sidewalk and all the hardscape that was in the yard. And so that is what, on 3, what we were left with. And that's what I wanted to increase and further the curb appeal, and I used brick to put in a retaining wall, and I want to, if you'll notice on 4, raise the level of the yard. Our neighbors, Judge Brown, them and us are having trouble with drainage. So a whole lot of water comes off here. I've changed the gutters. They're now on the back side. I've ran drains, and I just wanted to get this water away from the front of the house and tilt it out toward the sidewalk. And by raising the grade, that's what I hope to accomplish. So we went before the historical district, total number of 3 times. The first time we were totally denied, but that time I was going for, I had brick columns across the front. They denied that. I had those tore out, incurred an expense of $1,500. Then Miss Carolyn came out, did a site plan, again, returned, approved, and they rejected it also. So I pled with them on the second meeting to, give me something to reach some resolution here. And on page 5 is that the addendum and what Carolyn was approved to do. So the columns were took down, retaining wall stretched all the way across the front facade. It's 1 foot on one end, and it's roughly 14, 15 inches on the other end, just because of the grade. If I wanted to keep the brick straight across the front of the property, which I tried to do, and it's a little bit down. And that was explained by the architect of the city, John, who was also on site. He kind of explained that to Miss Carolyn, and she said absolutely not. She was only approving 12 inches. That's all she could. So, we did go over with that a little bit. Then if you flip to page 6, you can see the retaining walls have been put in. It's stretching across the front of the property. I have on both flanking sides, the historical district had approved it, but then they disapproved my putting a run of brick the same height on the left side of the property. And I don't know any other way to achieve having a raised yard, and because, all my masons were like, Mr. Kennedy, everything you put in this yard is going to wash into your neighbor's yard if there's nothing there.
Excuse me 1 second. When you say the left side, are you saying the left side facing the house or the left side?
Yeah, if you're facing the house, it's on your left, right there.
Here.
Where you're pointing, yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
So I presented that to the board originally, and was told, well, they would not approve it. That I could have it tore down and come back and get approval, and then I might get it and I could rebuild it. I'm tired. It's $1,500, $1,000 every time I turn around, and I'm just trying to get a level yard with grass. And by no way is this a courtyard. The definition of courtyard is an unroofed area that's completely or mostly enclosed by the walls of a large building. So I don't understand I did mention when we first presented to the historical board and we had the columns across the front that I like the courtyard feel. I use that as a reference to some of our travels to New Orleans, but by no means do I want to put a courtyard in the front of my home. Then we proceeded on. So there was stop work order put on the property. There's actually been 3. The last one, Carolyn came out with the police, and I was told by her that when I simply said, so you're telling me I can't mow, weed eat, or anything? And she told me, absolutely not. Nothing could occur in this yard that was considered work. So, once again, I'd had dirt hauled in to simply backfill to the brick on the retaining area. We've dealt with mud. We have animals. They're in and out. This has been a real nuisance. It's become a financial burden, and I get no resolution from the historical board. Then if you go to page 10, you can see how the grade of the yard was really tilting down. Then if you go to 11, it's basically in place. All the hardscape is in place. The concrete, I don't know, if, because I had these concrete pediments here, that's considered, making it considered a courtyard or not. But I talked with Judge Breland, and he referenced me back to the historical preservation guidelines. So on landscaping, ornamentation, garden ornamentation such as statuary, bird baths, freestanding elements shall not be restricted. So, and I may not even leave those. I'm basically wanting it to be like 12. That's the street, my Walnut Street, the street, the home straight across from me.
Sorry. The house, sorry, let me skip to 12 here. This house right here
Yes, sir.
is directly across the street from you.
Yes.
So we're over here talking about you wanting to do a project like this here,
Yes.
and then directly across the street from you, and you're doing the exact same thing.
Exactly.
Is that house in the historic commission? Is that considered a part of the historic thing as well?
Yeah, let's
Let's let
him finish, and then they're
they'll
gonna
respond.
present too, so she can.
Yeah, he needs to finish.
Yes, it is in the historical district. There's 255 homes just in Old Decatur, and that's Wells Street to Church Street. Of those 255 homes, 68 have some type of retaining wall, whether it be one brick around the edge of their front of your yard or a 4-foot tall brick retaining wall. Also, the houses with side fences that come all the way out to the street or sidewalk from the edge of the home to, there's 69 of those. So in both categories, over 25% of the homes in Old Decatur have what I'm trying to put in. And when I approached the board with these numbers, I was told, well, that was before this board was seated. So in my understanding is it really doesn't matter. Just because one board approved it or disapproved it, that should stand. I mean, 25%, that's a pretty good big number. Those decisions, I would imagine, carry on. So, yes, that home is straight across catty corner to my property. The other home that's straight across from my property is a solid brick fence, and it runs the whole length of the street, almost up to the corner of the home. And the historical district referred back to the reference of new construction under the policy and recommendations, and that played into the rhythm of the street. Well, it says fences, landscaping, and other elements should also be consistent with the overall character of the streetscape. The same thing I'm wanting is across the street. So the consistency is not only in my block, it's all up and down Walnut Street. In 15, there is a beautiful home. It's on Cherry Street. That's been constructed, they said the historical district was just since 90. Well, many of these homes that are in here, I try to use the ones that have been within the past 15 years, even 10 years. 17, there again, a raised yard. It's called a terraced garden. On Walnut Street, 19, that is an example of an old build. I mean, that's very old. So therefore, but the same deal. And they do have a courtyard in the back, but it's surrounded by brick walls. 2021 is a home that's on Walnut Street. It's 3 blocks down, and it has very tall retaining walls, and it's 3 brick wide. Then 22 is just examples of different homes in the historical district with a fence. It's got a fireplace in the middle. I know that's fairly recent. Then it brings me to 23. There's a home on Line Street. If you're going up Cherry, right there at the corner, when we did air construction, Ms. Swoop come out, she served the stop work order, and she took the sign back. We were out of compliance, but we were also within compliance. This column I brought up to their attention, and when I first presented it to the historical board, I was told that there's no other examples in the area. Here's a home that has columns across the front. There's 4, 2 flanking the entryway, 1 on each corner. Now they've constructed 1 on the back corner, and Ms. Swoop told me that they did not get certificate of appropriateness for that.
Can you explain what you said? You were out of compliance, but you were in compliance. What do you mean?
They told me that I could come down one side with the brick retaining wall, and I could come across the front, but they didn't approve me to go across the left side. And I went ahead because I had my brick masons there, and when they told me there was no other way to stop the drainage and the erosion of that soil or our yard washing into the neighbor's yard. And I said, well, just go ahead and I'll hopefully, plead with the historical district. Because it's very difficult to get people out to do work these days. And back to the 23, they have a historical preservation sign in their area. So I just don't understand. She referenced page 12, fencing, where it states other fences that brick are not an appropriate material on a street vantage. Well, my sides where I have the fence, or what you might consider a column, you see the end of the column. One side, the right side, is totally covered up with shrubbery. I've offered to, I want to professionally landscape it. So, I can put in shrubs, trees, whatever. I'm open to suggestions. And that's pretty much my spiel.
Okay. Any questions before we let Caroline?
Did you have anybody look, you talked about drainage issues, so if you were to raise yours 12 to 17 inches across, did you have anybody look at that and see how that would affect any of the neighbors as far as water runoff?
No, it won't raise it. It was about one end, you really wouldn't have to raise it that much, but it was the natural slope. It already had the downgrade of about a foot.
But you were going to level it off.
And I was going to level it off, just level it off. And what has already been done and moving the gutters to the backside of the porch has helped tremendously.
Okay, any other questions now?
Where does that runoff go to? Where does your runoff go to now? Does it go to your neighbors? Does it go?
No, it goes, there's a section between that column and the home, and it goes right through there, and then I've got a drain pipe that takes it on down.
To the street?
To the street.
Question really quickly. So the house you referenced here in 12 that has the exact same thing across the street. Is it next door? Do they have kind of like the same thing, or is their yard flat and their yard's higher than
No,
that one?
the home next door
Yeah, to this one.
to that one,
Yeah.
it has a slope, a huge slope in their front yard.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you, sir. Caroline, if you want to come.
So I am administrative staff for the commission, but if you have specific questions for the commissioners, a number of them are here tonight. John Godwin is no longer on the commission, but at the time of these meetings and these rulings, he was the commission architect. So I asked him to be here tonight as well. So just to locate this particular property, it is on Walnut Street. It's actually not that far from City Hall. And that is the way the house looked before the start of construction. So there was this very low, maybe 1 foot high or so, poured concrete on either side of the front sidewalk. And then it also went down on this side with the driveway. This is the way that the property currently looks.
So that tree on the first one is the one that fell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this is the way the property currently looks. So the timeline on this, so in early May, multiple calls came into community development office regarding an unauthorized brick wall at this address. May 10th, the first stop work order was issued with staff and a municipal code officer. Staff met with the property owner, Mr. Kennedy. He said he was unaware of the COA process. This house is a fairly new purchase for them, but they've lived in the district since the early 2000s on Cherry Street, and so this is their second house within the district. And Mr. Kennedy agreed to submit an application for the Historic Preservation Commission to review. So there's a picture showing at the time the first stop work order was issued. And you can also see, this is going in the neighbor's yard, so it's pretty much at grade. There's a very low dip here. It is from a slightly different vantage point. June 10th, Historic Preservation Commission meeting. What I have on here went in with the COA, so these are his plans that he submitted. Mr. Kennedy submitted an application requesting a brick wall that was 3 feet tall with 24-inch square brick piers on the front of the property with sidewalls that were 4 foot tall. The applicant was advised by the commissioners to meet with staff and create a plan that met district standards that are typically cast iron or low picket fences. So at this point, there was a fountain here. It says there, water fountain. And the applicant responded that he wanted it to be different and he wanted, quote, a New Orleans style courtyard. And this is in the minutes. So you can review the commission minutes if you'd like. Commission voted on the application submitted, 0 votes in favor, motion failed to carry. So I met with the applicant to create a revised plan. So I met with him on site, went back, sort of took a look at what he had started, where he wanted to go with it. So he returned with a new application for 6 brick piers on the front wall, and that's what you have here. And then 2 additional brick piers on each side. And the piers were going to be the 26 inches because he had misspoke. It was not 24-inch square. They were 26-inch square piers. 15 inches high on each side of the front door, 13 inches high for the rest of the piers along the sidewalk. Mr. Kennedy also requested an open planter box in the middle of the 26-inch posts for all the shorter posts. The commission voted on this application, 0 votes in favor. The motion failed to carry. So also at this meeting, the applicant then mentioned that he had to have a retaining wall. So the commission discussed how he may not have removed his non-conforming wall, and that's what this is. This is non-conforming, which means it's something that would not necessarily be approved by district standards today, but it's kind of grandfathered in, so it stays. It's sort of like non-conforming in building codes. And so they said, well, you know, he might not have removed that if he had known he couldn't do this. So if he would like to rebuild it, we will let him rebuild it. Like if somebody new came to us and said, we want to put this in, there would be a discussion. But since maybe he wasn't aware, we will let him rebuild it. And if he wants it in brick, that's fine. So similar to the concrete one that was removed, 12 inches high at the highest point to be constructed on the site. A simple wall, no piers, no posts. New wall was to be in the exact same location. So it would be here again, and then just down that side, but nothing here. And you can see that slope. It's a very, very gentle grade there. Applicant did not object to the amendment. Vote was unanimous to approve. So staff went to meet with the applicant on site the next day. Both the commission architect, who was John Godwin at that time, and a neighbor, Ellis Chenault, who actually came out with a laser level to help set the lines and help him determine where the work would go to review the maximum height of construction. Work continued on the site with non-approved design. And so second and third stop work orders were issued. The second stop work order was issued on July 26th with the head of community development. Applicant continued to work on the site. He brought in fill dirt. He started placing caps on the posts. A third stop work order was issued August 6th by 2 municipal police officers. August 12th, Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Applicant appeared in front of the commission and was given 30 days to bring the project into compliance. So he was told he could not bring more fill dirt on site to fill in around the wall that was built. He could not put plantings in that area until the wall was removed. I was notified of the appeal process, which is what we're in now. If a request for a certificate of appropriateness is denied by the commission, they can make modifications and resubmit. They also can appeal to the denial to City Council within 15 days. Staff was notified September 24th. The applicant would like to appeal the ruling. And so this is where, the CLA said that one could go in this about 12 inches high, and this is what is currently there now. So this is the property currently. This is it from the other side view. Here you see some of the fill dirt going in. Which then brings us to how the commission makes their rulings. So the commission has design review standards that have been in place for some time. There's one with fences. There's a separate one for walls because there was some debate over whether this is a fence or a wall. With fences at principal street vantages, 3 feet. Principal street vantage is not just the front of the house. It's what you see when you're down the street. So it's kind of the front yard. And then by the time you move to about the halfway point of the house, that's when you start going into the backyard. Fences on readily available secondary vantage should be no higher than 6 feet. So that's the backyard where people put in their 6-foot privacy fences. Other fences, the use of solid brick or open weave fences along street vantages is not appropriate at the principal street vantage. The use of these materials is appropriate at secondary vantages, which is essentially from the midpoint of the house. Landscaping, garden structures such as retaining walls should be located as to not be readily visible from public vantages. Which then sort of takes us to, well, what else is in the district when the commission is sort of looking at these rulings? The standard is picket or cast iron fences in the front yard. That's what the discussion was originally. That's when he said he wanted to be different. He did not want that in his yard. That was before retaining wall was mentioned. There are some retaining walls within the district, and some of them are quite old. Some of them predate the district, and in some cases retaining walls are needed because the cuts are very deep. I mean, this is a significant grade drop in a very fast area. You have to have a retaining wall here for this property to work. This is around the block from him. And this is a very steep retaining wall that is tied in on this section here. But most of these retaining walls predate the district because most of these houses are over 100 years old. So a lot of the walls went in the 60s, and they have stayed. There are some that we call non-compliant. I honestly can't tell you why this one is here. It looks like it's been here since the 60s. We don't know. The owners don't know anymore because it's gone through multiple owners. So occasionally you will see things like that. This house is not that far away. It does have brick posts. It is, believe it or not, it's not a historic building. This was built before the district was formed in the late 1980s. If this particular applicant bought another house and wanted to put this exact same fence across the new house, the commission would probably say it's not meeting the standards currently. You know, you can keep what you have, but you don't necessarily get to reproduce that elsewhere. And there's lots of those within the district. Some of them are from the 60s, 70s, 80s. Do not know the age of this one. This one has some age on it as well, but this is also what would be considered non-conforming within the district. Which takes us back to what the property looked like before the work started. This is where it is at now. It is not in compliance with the COA that was approved, and work continued on it. The district as a whole, it is Old Decatur, but it is tied in with Bank Street. That is one district. The ability for properties to be contributing within that district, which means they have enough of their architectural character to showcase that era, is important, because essentially keeping a district is a series of plus and minuses. If a tornado comes through and takes down buildings, you're going to have a negative, because you have, where you once had houses, you now have nothing, or you have new infill, which can look beautiful, but it's not historic. So it's important to keep this historic buildings and their, you know, character-defining features and your ability to see them, because when you lose that, the district boundaries can fray, or you can lose your status. Bank Street was just resurveyed, and there is discussion with a boundary reduction for the district because it has lost integrity in some areas. So I was on the phone with the State Preservation Office last week discussing we're going to have to take some blocks out of the district because there have been so many changes on some of these blocks that they're not going to be considered contributing anymore. And that will impact the overall health of the district and also tax credits, how people move through programs, because they're all tied into one package. So this house is much bigger than just this house or what's across the street. And when the commission is very aware of that when they look through their rulings, and they try very hard to be consistent.
Okay, any questions for Caroline?
So what is the commission asking for here? 12-inch wall that matches the previous, what was there prior, correct?
Yes. And there was no discussion at the time. I'm trying to see if I can get it to go back. Sorry. Yes. So essentially, what was approved and what there was no additional discussion on at the meeting, there was no indication that this was not acceptable. Was to essentially, he would be allowed to put this back in, which is non-conforming, but the commission thought, well, maybe he wouldn't have pulled it out if he had known. So if he really wants to put it back in, we will allow him to put it back in, and he can put it back in brick. So that is what was actually approved.
Well, it looks like, I mean, this tree did some damage to it, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, looks like it's broken in half.
It may have been, there was no discussion with the commission about the tree, so the commission has never seen those photos. I was unaware of that data until just now, so that had never been brought in front of the commission.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's definitely broke in the picture.
So
So a repair was gonna have to be done regardless. Would pouring concrete have been within the standards?
So if it was already existing and it was damaged and he had come to me and said, hey, we have a tree that's torn this up, but, you know, can I go in front of the commission? That would have actually been something that I could have staff approved. I could have fast tracked that one, and I could have just authorized replacing that section of damaged concrete.
But for concrete, not brick.
I could have done concrete, the commission would have had to have authorized brick. And he was very set on brick, and so that's why the commission said, well, if you want to essentially put it back but do it in brick, you can, you know, put it back in brick.
Okay, so I'm just have a question on if there needed to be a retaining wall or not. Is that something the commission would just decide if they felt like there was a need for a retaining wall?
The commission would probably ask for expert reports. I don't think we've had one of those come in since I've been on staff. But then the question is, on this particular site, you know, it's such a low grade to then build up a platform, because I don't see how that's a retaining wall. Because when you go back, terminology might be a different terminology. So this is fill that was brought in. So I'm not sure how it counts as a retaining wall for the property when the fill is brought in to make it higher, because you can actually see. This is when the dirt was being brought in. So that retaining wall is retaining dirt that was brought onto the site. So there might be a different terminology that, and the commission would probably ask for an engineering report, would be my guess.
Well, I mean, a retaining wall can be for dirt that's brought in.
Yeah.
It's retaining
Yeah.
dirt.
And I think he said that you were trying to build it up, did you not?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that slope is a
1 foot grade. You look at the yard, the concrete, and even at one of the historical meetings, the chair lady, you know, she said the grade of the yard should be the top, the entryway concrete. When Carolyn came out, she went from the sidewalk. Well, that's immediately almost a foot down. But now the retaining wall in the front, on the right-hand side, is 12 inches. It does increase to roughly 15 on the left-hand side, but that was just to try to keep it straight.
Any other questions for
What
Carolyn?
what's the height on that end?
That end right there,
Uh-huh.
that's less than 36 inches. On the other side, it's, I have 24 if you're on the porch.
What is it from grade on that, like under that post right there?
The tall one?
Probably, it's not over 48.
You mean that one that's directly under the corner post is not 48 inches tall?
No, that one at the very corner there, next to the sidewalk, is 15.
No, I mean under the.
On the
post
left
that's-
side.
The far left side of the picture.
Right here.
Right there,
Yeah,
yes.
there you go. There we go.
Yes,
The
That's not
distance
over
from here to
48
here.
inches?
from there to there.
Oh,
Is that
from
what
there
you're
to
asking?
there, I mean from there.
I'm asking
from the
for
top to the
grade
ground.
to the top, grass.
So
to
from
the top.
here to the
There.
grass?
Yes.
What's the distance between there?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about.
You don't know?
I would, not really.
I mean,
I mean,
When it was being
I-
constructed.
if that wall is
because-
15 inches,
it's way more than 15 inches. I mean,
no, the
Well, no,
lower one is, he says is around 15 inches, correct?
At the
So,
corner,
roughly-
the front corner, back at the pillar, it's not over 36 inches, because when the brick masons were putting it in, you know, I told them we couldn't have anything over 36 inches. That's like when we originally started the project, those pillars, none of those were over 36 inches tall. And when the historical board just did not approve it, you know, I had all that to the.
All right. Any other questions for Caroline or?
I do, I have a question.
If you don't, let's finish
Okay.
council's question. Do you have anything else from council?
Do you
So-
have a recommendation for what you would like to see? Obviously, that on the left side of that photo is clearly too high, it does not meet standards. But then that piece there was not authorized, correct? He was to make an L shape back the other direction. Is the commission, what is your opinion on if he were to keep that and lower it to that 15 inches or so? And he's wanting to fill it in and bring grass in, is that
Yes, sir.
landscape or?
So that is something the commission would, I mean, the commission already, they'd have to go back in and look at it again because that was not presented to them. I mean, what they have had and then what was built were all of these brick sort of squared out piers that have the stone tops on them. So it was, I mean, they had the initial discussion with him, they approved putting something back in. There was no discussion that that was not gonna work for him in the meeting. It just went back and just started constructing something different. So he would need to come back in front of the commission. If the plan that he is now requesting is that, you know, to have this brick wall that runs along here too, to stay at that height, and the commission's probably gonna discuss the appropriateness of these piers again. So I would expect that to be something that they would want to discuss.
Was the commission in favor of the piers or no?
No.
No, no piers. So they went in against commission discussion approval. Was this in between the stop work order period?
They were taller at the beginning, and then he shortened some and left some tall. So the very first run, you know, that's what it looked like before the construction started. The first stop work order, this is what was there. So we had taller, we had these alternating, like tall, short, and as it went through, then we started to get whole sections of wall in here. So that what the commission's trying to focus on is, you know, keeping it uniform, keeping a certain rhythm, so that one house doesn't stand out with these new, very contemporary sort of changes that aren't elsewhere within the district. So that's what they would be looking at when they went through the standards.
So do you make recommendations to the commission?
My job is to go through, it takes like 20 hours to prep one of the meetings, and I read the application, then I have to go in and look for prior case examples to see what the commission has approved before. Then, because I meet the federal certifications in my field, I go and I pull the standards that the commission works with, and I pull the federal standards, and I start to correlate to see, is the applicant meeting them? Is there a way to meet them better? Has the commission ruled on this before? How have they ruled before that would allow it? And the commission has all of those notes for debate when they go into a meeting.
So the answer is yes?
Yes.
Okay, so to the councilman's question, would you make a recommendation to the commission to what Councilman Pike asked you, or would you deny?
I would have to, there's nothing in the standards. I mean, the standards is really clear on brick walls. So if he's asking for something that is beyond the boundary of the standards, then there has to be a reason for it. So at that point, I'm assuming the commission, we don't get requests of this very often, but I'm assuming the commission would probably ask for some sort of professional report from someone saying there's an issue with water, we have to have a retaining wall. Like, why does this feature need to be added? Because the standards are pretty clear on not adding them. And I would expect that professional report to be brought in to support his request.
Was it approved on the right side of the house though?
Because it was already there, so they were allowing him to put in what was up back.
So it was on, it did.
There it was, yes, it went down. The commission felt like that was the fairest thing to rule on for him, because they were concerned that maybe he somehow just didn't remember, you know, the process, and that at least they could allow him to put back in what was there.
So are we asking him to tear down the left side of the house here, like where the wall is? Are we asking him to remove that? What are we asking him to do here today? Are we asking him to come in compliance with what the commission wants? And I'm guessing that means he's, I'm going to ask you a question. I know they probably want you at the mic. How much money did you spend on this?
Okay.
That's not irrelevant.
$6,200.
$6,200. Okay. So we're asking him to remove, now $6,200 on the whole project or just the left side?
No, just what is there, and then I spent $1,500 to have the pillars took down.
So
Okay.
I'm going to interrupt though. Can you answer as to why there had to be multiple stop work orders, but you continue to do work?
Can you come to the mic and
Yes, I did continue. I didn't continue. I had some. I've lived in the neighborhood 33 years, and I'm a travel nurse, so I'm only in town, so I just wanted to level the yard, what was there, while I had my off time. So I just had dirt to live. I thought as long as I didn't do any brickwork, it was okay. That was the stop work. That's what, you know, she said no masonry work. And then she mentioned the deal with the caps, the stone caps. But that's ornamentation. That should fall under, you know, my reading in the guidelines is, you know, freestanding, they're not mortared in place, any of the concrete. And, you know, it should not be restricted. That's what the guideline had said. So, and it's real interesting how Miss Swoop, on page 15, there's examples of homes, 16, 17. These homes have been built, constructed their yards in the past 15, 20 years at the most, since the historical board has been commissioned. The historical board has been commissioned 30 years, because they said they were in 90. So I know the Odoms. I knew the home across from it. Miss Mary Blizzard. They bought it, and they've done all of that. DeLoyne, he totally revamped his whole yard. And in the past 5 years on 18, that's his rental property. Those retaining areas have been put in. And that's probably, well, it's been since we've lived in this house. So in the past 3 years.
So the portion in this picture right here, was that done prior to a stop work order or post stop
Oh,
work
no,
order?
none of this. We had approval when we did this, but I went ahead and added this.
So
There
you
was
did,
no-
you
there
did
was no
that
stop
without a
order.
C of A?
There was no stop work order in effect when this was done.
Was that on your
That's
application?
Why there was a stop work order.
Yes, that's, and then, so after that was built, she come back out and said I was again out of compliance and issued the stop work order.
But you had a COA that did not include that portion
Yes,
there?
it included the front part and the side, but it didn't include this.
So why did you, just curious, out of curiosity, why did
Because
you
my
build
brick
that?
masons told me that I would never get this dirt ground to stay put, that it would wash over into this, to my neighbor's yard. And that's what we've been trying to correct. And this picture that she shows of how the house was, that is, it's a misconception. That's not possible. For one, this whole side, if you go back to that, my neighbors, they have a petition there. Well, that's not there now. None of that. That whole picture is misconceiving. The house is not. And then the tree fell. Well, it destroyed all that. It destroyed the sidewalk, the whole sidewalk along the house, the whole yard. I mean, it was a huge tree, you can tell from the picture. But I had no control over that. I was just trying to go back and correct. And, you know, the historical board never approached us when the tree fell about the roofing that was done on the home. We never heard from the historical board.
Let me ask you a question. It was kind of mentioned that what happens if beyond the 15 inches,
Right.
where it goes up,
Uh-huh.
where it goes higher,
Mm-hmm.
where you said it was 48 inches.
Right here.
Yeah, what happens if, she was saying that, you know, you could come back before the commission and, you know, take that portion down, make the wall,
Just go straight across.
yeah, straight across. What are your thoughts on that? Just out of curiosity.
Well,
And
I
I'm not
would
saying they're
entertain it
approved or not
because-
approved, I'm just asking what your thoughts are.
it just gives us a little bit of privacy from our neighbors because we're so high up. When we're out on our porch, we totally look down on them and their porch. And them and their kids are out there on cell phones and talking. It just affords us a little bit of privacy and actually them more privacy from us.
I guess my concern, I don't mind sharing this, is that,
Oh.
you know, when we talk about this wall, you know, it's not in conformance with current guidelines, but we've got neighbors all around you who have that. So I don't have a problem necessarily with the 15 inches of wall. I do have concern that you went well beyond that with the portion that you said was 48 inches. So, you know, I'm kind of torn between, you know, going along with the, you know, I'm sort of torn as to, you know, how I vote on this seriously, because if we, you know, if that was not there, I would, you know, I would go along with it, because there are existing walls like that throughout your community. With
Well,
that,
see,
I don't know.
and the same wall is on the other side, but yet it's got, I had shrubbery there. You know, I can put shrubbery here. This basically, I have a foot over as far as the property line. You know, we haven't even cleaned the brick masons, stop order was in fact, so they've not even cleaned the brick. But you know, with ivy and growed in and a little age, I think it will blend in beautifully.
I think that will. I'm concerned
Right.
about the taller portion of it.
Okay.
And that's where I'm concerned with it. But I realized when the pictures were shown that it had not been cleaned and that you
Right.
were not allowed to do work. So I was not swayed by that. But I'm concerned about the taller portion of the wall and how that's not in conformance with any other picture that I saw.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I mean, I
it's a
could-
large brick wall right next to the porch.
See, when we looked through the pictures, there were some that kind of came up and been there for a while, but that doesn't conform to anything in the neighborhood that I saw pictures of, the ones that you presented or the ones that she presented. So that's really my, that's
Well,
my hang up there.
Even with the pillars.
Right.
You know, the wall I get, and I mean, Mr. Godwin, so the 12 to 15, that makes sense for the slope, right? To make the wall even. So it started at 12 inches on one side, and it grew to 15 to keep the wall level, correct?
And this was probably said, I might have missed it. When you went the first time to
Yes,
get the COA, did you say at that time that you were wanting to raise the level of the yard?
Yes.
Okay. I do think it would be obvious to me if you're raising the level of the yard, not having a wall go down that side is not doable. I don't know if that was said in the meeting or not, but
Right.
you would have to have something to make
Exactly.
that feel. But yeah, well, but any other questions for Mr. Kennedy?
I don't have any other questions, but I just find it.
Can I ask one? Sorry, I have one more question. I didn't want you to give your opinion.
That's
before.
great.
Just to clarify on what we're voting on, Caroline, what was the decision that was made is to do what? Just to clarify that he's appealing. The Historical Preservation Commission voted to require something. What was that?
So if a COA is denied, the applicant has the ability to appeal that denial to the council. So the first COA was denied. That was for the brick courtyard with the water fountain and that entire thing. He came back in front of the commission with a revised version that was denied and then amended, and legal will be able to probably address that better than me on whether or not that one can be appealed because it's an amended COA. And the ordinance calls out that only COAs that are denied have the appeal process.
I have a
But if,
question.
excuse me one second, but if we support your motion tonight, what happens? Does he tear the entire wall down? Everything he's got there, does he tear that down?
It's out of compliance. He can come back in front of the commission with a new COA to try to reach an agreement. But based on discussion thus far, I do not expect them to entertain the 4-foot tall sidewalls very well. I mean, the actual vote that was made, the last one, and I'm reading it directly out of the minutes, a motion was made by Lynn Schubert, seconded by Rebecca Poole Burns to make changes to the submitted COA and amend it to allow a low brick wall, no more than 1 brick deep, 12 inches high at the highest point, to go on each side of the front sidewalk and along the driveway side down the house, the same location where the low concrete retaining wall was shown in Google Street View. Unanimous approval, motion carried. And there was notice, the applicant did not indicate at that point that he had an issue with that particular COA, and that's the one that was approved that they were expecting to be built. And that's not what occurred.
So, out of curiosity, what happens if he doesn't tear down the wall? Just curiosity, what happens if he doesn't tear it down? Does the city take him to court? Well, what happens here? Because if we're going to take him to court over him,
The analysis I see is he has gone beyond what was approved. He intentionally, his brick mason told him, he intentionally allowed him to go ahead and build it up without approval. You don't normally watch someone violate the rules and then expect to not have some repercussions.
So
The
what
answer to your question is, my thought would be, and I don't know whether this is even feasible, is for him to go back to the Historic Preservation Commission with what he really wants to do, because he's got several different variables here. But what he has done is gone beyond what was approved. And normally there's repercussions from that. And the answer to your question is, that will be up to, first of all, the Historic Preservation Commission to decide, and then it'll be up to the city to decide. Yes, the answer is, if it's not approved, he needs to take the wall down.
So,
okay, that wasn't my.
Mr.
Okay,
Kennedy,
oh, Mr.
I think And Mr.
I'm talking about the part that's,
Okay, what
whatever's
happens
not
if he
approved.
does not tear down the wall? What happens if he does not tear it down?
We will go to court.
Okay, if you
If-
don't
if-
tear down the wall, if this is approved today,
Well,
or if
I'm
we-
talking about what's not approved.
Okay. So this is just a little something to add in there. I love how we're sitting here since it's been an hour now. We're up here arguing about the gentleman's wall. He pays for the house. He owns do you own the house?
Yeah.
He owns the house. He works as a healthcare provider. He works hard. He pays for his own house. He paid $6,200 for the brick. This is getting ridiculous here. So in the event that anybody else was to support this, and the city does, and you don't tear it down, the city does decide to take you to court, I will sit right along with you in court. Every minute of it.
Let me say this. I'm gonna ask that, and I know we've dealt with this for a while, fully aware of that, but I'm gonna ask that we table this again and allow him to go back before the commission. And I'll just be quite frank with you, I would support it if it was just the lower wall. That's just
I
me.
agree.
But the 48 inches or the tall portion of it, I just don't see that as being in conformance with anything around you. And I think that, yeah, it would be nice, but you know, you've lived in the community for a while and you knew the guidelines when you moved there. You definitely knew them when you moved into this home. And I just don't see that as being in conformance with anything around. So it's difficult for me to support that portion of it. It's
Okay.
not difficult at all for me to support the lower portion of the wall because it's all around you. And that's just me. And I understand that there are guidelines. I fully understand that. But there's been a precedent set where, you know, it's all around. And I just, again, I'm not asking anybody else to do anything. I'm just telling you where I am. And I would ask that we table this and give you an opportunity to go back before the commission and to discuss this opportunity. And if it doesn't work out for you then you can come back and you already know where I am on it. So that's where we are.
I agree with Mr. Jackson, and I think what's important to note here, and I won't speak for Mr. Jackson, but I think we're all looking for a compromise here and what you'd be willing to do. So if you do go back before HPC and work with them and obviously do what's in compliance with them, this was built without permission. So there was some blatant disregard for that to an extent. So I do understand that, but I'll second that motion if Mr. Jackson was making a motion to table this.
Is that a motion?
It is.
Okay, we have a motion to table, second by Mr. Pike.
So will you go back before HPC, and are you okay with a 15-inch wall?
Well, here's the thing, they didn't approve a 15-inch wall.
But
So
you'll have to put the COA out there to see if they would approve.
well, you'd have to build an 8-inch wall to make it a 12-inch wall.
Well,
So,
Just to add in there, in the event that this is tabled and you do decide to go back to the Historic Preservation Commission,
Hunter will be there with you.
oh, not only will I be there with you, thank you, Mr. McMasters, not only will I be there with you, if you cannot come to an agreement, just remember it's your yard. You can stand there and fight as long as you want to. Your yard, your property, you pay for it.
I guess my question to that would be, is there any limit that you wouldn't support?
No,
somebody
it should be,
So-
it's bare, there's
No,
nothing there.
What if he just surrounded the entire front yard with a 20-foot brick wall?
I would have an issue with it then,
I
but
just
there's
wanted to
nothing
make
wrong
sure
with that
you
right
were-
there. It's like 4 foot of wall right there and it's barely any of it.
Okay.
We need to mind our own business.
Well, you could say
In this
that about a
situation, we
20-foot
can mind
wall.
our own business.
All right, we got a motion to table, second by Mr. Pike. Any other discussion? I'll say for me, my stance on anybody, any property owner, private property owner, I would almost say is similar to Mr. Pepper's. I'll say that, I guess. We agree.
Oh, we agree on that.
But it is that it's their property, whether it's a developer, whoever it is, a owner of a house. And so the starting point is you gotta have a really good case to go against that. However, I mean, I have an HOA in my neighborhood, and I can't just go start building stuff that's out of line with that. And
Tell
there
them to
are,
take you to court.
it's even more so in the historic district when you choose to live there. So I personally do think there's been enough opportunity for you to try to work with the commission to try to get it in line. I don't know, 15-inch, all that seems very subjective, but I do think you've had that opportunity. I think you continue to do work that was outside of what was approved. So I actually won't support tabling this, but we'll vote and see how it goes. Any other discussion? All right, roll. This is a vote to table. Anything, Herman, we're missing in tabling?
I don't think so, but when you're in a historic district, just like you mentioned, there are covenants. These are the guidelines. When you move there, you know the guidelines.
Yeah.
And that's important because you impact not only your property, but the property around you. I'm not saying, I want Mr. Jackson to talk about, work out something.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose of a table. Because
Okay.
y'all are not really in a posture to try to determine whether it needs to be this high or all that. That's not what you're being asked to do. So I think table is a good idea. You didn't ask me that, but I do.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, roll call?
Ladner,
No.
Masters,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
Pike,
Aye.
Pepper.
No.
All right, the motion to table passes with a vote of 3-2. So we will table that to a future. I guess, Caroline, you can work with him and the commission on seeing if there's a compromise to come to. All right, thank you. I think we're finished with that. Well, we're not finished. All right, we'll move into set public hearings. I'll give if you guys can stay or leave, it's up to you. I'll give you just a minute to leave.
We didn't focus on that.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and move into set public hearings. First is ordinance.
Take a recess or?
Okay, we're all leaving. We'll take a 5-minute recess.
Well, I guess.
All right, we're gonna get started back on the agenda. We are on set public hearings. Ordinance number 224491, approved zoning text amendment 24722 Code of Decatur, sections 25143, 25146, and 25147 regarding home occupations. Set public hearing March 7th, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Yes, this zoning text amendment would change how we deal with home occupations and move it to an administrative approval process. This was approved by the Planning Commission.
Okay, any questions for Lee? All right, next is ordinance 224492, approved zoning text amendment 24822, Code of Decatur, sections 25110, 25112, 25113, and 25114. Temporary occupancy business requirements. Set public hearing March 7th, 2022, 6 p.m.
This is the same as the home occupations, just moving to an administrative approval process.
Hey, any questions? All right, ordinance number 224493, approved zoning request 138322 for a newly annexed tract of approximately 7.1 acres to B2. Property is located at 3827 and 3831 Highway 31 South. Set public hearing March 7th, 2022, 6 p.m.
Yes, this was just recently annexed into the city, and this would be to assign the zoning. The zoning district would be B2, general business.
And that's the Champion.
The Champion dealership, yes.
Okay. All right, any questions? Thanks, Lee. Next we have our weed abatements. Resolution number 22. I think you said there were no changes, David. Resolution number 2201. I guess, sorry, first, are there any questions for David on these? We did have Councilman Pepper, I guess, leave, so we've got 4 just for everybody watching at home. All right, we'll move into these then. Resolution number 22015, assessed $285 against 301 7th Avenue Northwest for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye. Resolution 22015 is approved 3-1. Next is resolution number 22016, assessed $285 against 504 Finley Drive Northwest for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye. Resolution 22016 is approved 3-1. Next is resolution 22017, assessed $285 against 802 West Moulton Street Northwest for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye. Resolution 22017 is approved 3-1. Resolution 22018, assessed $285 against 1427 College Street Southeast for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye. Resolution 22018 is approved 3-1. Next is resolution 22019, assessed $285 against 1805 Beltline Road Southwest for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye. Resolution 22019 is approved 3-1. Resolution 22020, assessed $285 against 403 Clearview Street Southwest for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye. Resolution 22020 is approved 3-1. Next, resolutions. Resolution number 22021, approve MUB expenditure of $518,876 for purchase of replacement CCTV electroscan wastewater inspection truck. Jimmy?
Yes, Mr. Ladner. My name is Jimmy Evans, Gas, Water, Wastewater Operations Manager at Decatur Utilities. This is to replace a Q CCTV and electroscan unit that was destroyed in the December 9th fire at our gas, water, wastewater operations facility. We want to replace this truck from Q's out of Orlando, Florida, the electroscan portion from Sacramento, California, for a total price of $518,876.
Okay.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
This was the lowest bidder, wasn't it, Jimmy?
Lowest bidder?
This was the lowest bidder.
I'd have to get that information.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call?
Wagner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
I'm gonna abstain on that one.
Aye. All right, resolution 22021 is approved 3-0 with 1 abstention. Next is resolution 22022, approve MUB expenditure of $285,223 for the purchase, replacement of sewer line cleaning truck.
Yes, this is for the replacement of our line cleaning truck that was also damaged in the December 9th fire. This will be purchased from Sansom Equipment out of Birmingham, Alabama for a cost of $285,223.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
It's not here either, but do we know if that was the lowest bid or not? You know, we don't know.
Well, these are replacement vehicles. We would have to go back to see what the original bids were when these were first purchased.
So, I mean, if
I don't have that bid
No,
information.
you've got to bid them
Yeah,
at this rate, so,
yeah,
yeah, you're replacing them, so we need to know
yeah, I can get
future
that.
reference.
Yeah, I'll get that information.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All right, roll call?
Wagner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
I'm gonna abstain on this one too.
Pike.
Aye. Resolution 22022 is approved 3-0 with 1 abstention.
Thank you.
Next is resolution 22023, approve MUB expenditure of $246,083 for admin building supply fan HVAC modifications. Glenn?
Sir, Glenn Boyles, Decatur Utilities. This project will be done at our main administration building on Central Parkway. We're replacing some existing supply fan units with a upgraded system that will also have heating and cooling coils in the fan system to control humidity in the air as it pulls it into the building, and it will also recirculate the air throughout the building in improved fashion to control humidity and temperature. And the total on the project is $246,083.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
Then I'm gonna ask you some question. Do we know if this is the lowest bid on this system?
We actually had 3 contract companies interested, and this is the only company that turned in a bid.
You don't know a reason?
Sir?
You don't know any reason for that?
One of the other companies claimed that they had other projects going that they didn't have the manpower to fulfill, and we kind of put a timeline on this project. We didn't want it dragging out for, a year. We want it done within 180 days, and they said they didn't feel like they could make it happen.
But it's not limited to these 3, you only had 3 bids, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Well, 3 interested, 1
companies.
bid.
Right.
Yeah.
We only had 1 actually turn in a bid. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call? Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
All right.
Pike.
Aye. Resolution 22023 is approved 4-0. Next is resolution number 22024, approve Rogers Group for the construction of Red Bank Road project and the budget amendment for the project.
Yes, this is the Rogers Group's bid to do construction on Red Bank Road, roughly for $839,000. And they were the only bidder.
Okay.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMasters. Second. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call?
Wagner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike.
Aye. Resolution 22024 is approved 4-0. Next is resolution 22025, approve cost of improvements to the electronic security gate at the Environmental Services Compound. Mr. Boutwell.
Good evening. So this is to replace and also repair our gates at the environmental services compound. Also to put a card reader for the rear door access for the building as well. So total cost will be $29,233.12.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMasters, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
Where are we getting that money from?
Unassigned fund balance.
I'm sorry?
Unassigned fund balance.
Is this something that could not have waited until we did our budget or major revision?
No, and the reason being, if you're here on the weekend, that gate's falling apart. Mr. Kip is having a hard time actually opening and closing that gate. If you had a fire truck, it needed to be fueled on the weekends when there's nobody in environmental services. It'd be very hard to get through that gate, especially to turn that fire truck around if they got fuel.
So that's a no.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call?
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye. Resolution 22025 is approved 4-0. Next is Resolution 22026, approve surplus of old plotters and approve the purchase of replacement plotter. Brad?
Brad Phillips, Director of Information Systems. This resolution is declare surplus to large format plotters. They're no longer needed, one of which we'll get a refund for in the amount of $3,995, which will apply towards purchase of a replacement multifunction plotter at a cost of $10,108.80.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call? Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye. Resolution 22026 approved 4-0. Next is Resolution 22027, authorized recruitment of police chief. Ms. Sandlin?
Yes, this is just a request to authorize the recruitment of the police chief. This is not coming forward at this time, nor has it, with a recommendation to use an executive recruiter. By virtue of the process, it will have a nationwide visibility. Men and women all over the country looking to be a police chief will see this opportunity through our posting process.
And that's the 30-day.
30 days under our policy, yes.
And you say we're not using an executive.
Not recommended at this
So
time.
we use the administrative, well, not administrative, but the professional services like chiefs organizations and
Yes,
police
we'll
organizations
post on
and
all those, yes.
National League and
Yes.
League of Municipalities.
Mhm.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMasters, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? So if we felt like when you give us the results of that, we would need a kind of service to use, at that time you would present that to us. Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Roll call? Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 22027 approved 4-0. Resolution 22028 approve Aldott City Agreement Renaissance Bank.
Well, as we've all seen, Renaissance Bank is doing a very pleasing building on US 31, and part of that will be to remove the sidewalk along the US 31. That's under the jurisdiction of Aldott. Aldott requires that the municipality agree that they'll maintain that particular portion of the sidewalk, or at least assure that it's done. We don't necessarily have to do it, we just have to make sure it is maintained.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call?
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye. Resolution 22028 is approved 4-0. Resolution 22029, temporary voting center at 6th Street Northwest Boys and Girls Club of Decatur.
Yes, the present voting centers at Kerry Matthews, it's not feasible to use it. We've gotten permission from the Housing Authority. We have a lease on the property, but it says we can only use it for recreational purposes. But they've agreed that we can use it for temporary voting center, which we are very appreciative, and we think that's the appropriate use of it. I mean, it's a good idea. Mr. Jackson helped develop that, and I think it's a very good, because it's right down the street from where the other one is.
Is that a motion? Motion by Mr. Jackson,
Second.
second by Mr. McMasters. I'm just curious, does the probate, somebody's gonna inform the citizens that
No, that's a greit's great question. It's state and federal.
Okay.
That'll be up to the probate judge and the county commission to do all
Yeah,
that.
okay.
And the board of registrars, yeah.
Judge kind of presented to the county commission, and I think he might have already presented it, didn't he?
I'm sorry?
He might have already presented
He
it.
may have,
But
I hope,
he,
yeah. But this just
Tomorrow,
confirms that
okay.
they can do it,
Okay.
because they've got some elections coming up.
Okay.
It's not any city elections, as far as we know, until
But
another few years.
probate and.
Yeah,
county
they'll handle all that.
of
We get-
notifying residents.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. That's their responsibility.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call?
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye. Resolution 22029 is approved 4-0. Next, ordinances, first reading. Ordinance 224494, approve annexation 36722 Foxwood subdivision, 20.1 acres located north of Kiowa Trail southeast and west of Ruby Point Drive southeast. I was curious.
Yes, this was recently pre-zoned to R3, so if approved, it would receive that zoning, and this was recommended for approval by the planning commission.
Okay, any questions? Thanks, Lee. Next is ordinance number 224495, convey 326 Church Street Northwest to Celebrating Early Old Town with Art.
Yes, Ciota has approached the city about needing this corner lot, and they are purchasing a larger tract to move Judge Horton's house into Decatur. It is the community development's recommendation that we donate this to Ciota to make this process move forward, or help this process move forward.
All right, any discussion? All right, thanks, Alan. Next, we have boards and committees. First is, do we need to do these in the reverse order, or are we? just
No, they're
going-
okay either
Okay.
way.
Appoint Brad Townsend to full member on Board of Zoning Adjustment, term expiring December 31st, 2023. He's an existing member moving up from supernumerary. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye. The appointment of Brad Townsend to full member is approved with a vote of 4-0. Next, we have appoint Chester Ayers to the Board of Zoning Adjustment with term expiring December 31st, 2025, as a supernumerary. Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? He is in the house tonight. See ya. All right, any other discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike.
Aye. All right, the appointment of Chester Ayers to BOZA is approved 4-0. Next council work session will be held on February 14th, 2022 at 5 p.m. Next regular council meeting will be held February 21st, 2022 at 10 a.m. Anything else from directors? Mayor?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Council President, Council. About 3 or 4 years ago, Barry Keith decided to, with approval of Chick-fil-A, build a new Chick-fil-A on Highway 31 South. As a result of that Chick-fil-A, a lot of growth, business growth took place in that area. Improvements, renovations at the Kroger Shopping Center. A lot of businesses relocated there, and new businesses came, especially along the frontage there. And we continue to see development take place down 31 and expecting more development along 67. And of course, some of that was also started with the whenever Kohl's and Target went in that area. The area has really grown. I learned that this is the Decatur Environmental Services compound, and that's located really in the center of the city. And that was very surprising for me to learn that. But if you go just a mile, if I can find my mouse here, here we go. Oh, I didn't do that. it's not gonna work, so I'm gonna verbalize this. I was hoping to be able to use that. If you go a mile from there, down Central Parkway toward the Beltline, there's nothing vulgar up there, is it, right now? Okay. I just wanna make sure. You find yourself at Wilson Morgan Park, and that's one of our nice parks. And with that, we have been looking at a place for our new rec center. We put a lot of effort into trying to work on acquiring property, as you know, at the warehouse district just over the railroad tracks on West Moulton Street, but we were not successful in our efforts there. So with that, we needed a plan B. And so there is a land available at Wilson Morgan Park, again, which is almost center to the city, and it's shovel ready. There's parking available there, improvements that can be done to the park, and with that, it is right there in the middle of all of our retail, our restaurants, hotels, and we think it's a wonderful location for the council to consider putting our next recreation center there. And I started with the piece about Chick-fil-A and what Barry Keith did. And I believe that the same thing could come as a result of the rec center going in that area, where it could have an economic impact as well with new businesses and such. So anyway, answer any questions that the council might have.
I would have to first say I'm disappointed about the Commons not working. I still think that could be a really good development for that area. But I guess the timing doesn't seem to be right. We have multiple landowners and just didn't seem like it. We could make something happen there. And this is a good, I think, option B. It is in District 4, where originally the Aquadome was, from what I understand. So I think it's a good thing for us to explore moving forward with, but I did have to say, because I think Bang came to Kiwanis and quoted me as saying I wanted a rec center at the Commons, and it's not going to happen, it doesn't look like, but thanks for the efforts and trying to make that happen, and I still think when the time is right, that is a really critical piece to kind of connect our two downtowns, and for the area there downtown to have that develop out. So
this will definitely be a crown jewel at Wilson Morgan
I think
Park.
you stole that from Mr. Gowan. But.
We're glad that he's here today.
Okay, any other questions or comments for the mayor? All right, thanks, Mayor. Anything else from council? All right, thanks, everybody. We are adjourned. Stephanie.
Yes, sir.
We'll have